Welcome back to the BFR Podcast presented by Sports Mockery and Fanatics. My name is Dave. I cover the Bears for SM. I'm joined by my good friend, Bears content creator, Ficky. We can follow him on all socials at It's Ficky Baby. Of course, the pod at BFR_pod. But it's been, honestly, I almost forgot how to do this thing, Ficky. It's been about 3 weeks. We took a little bit of a hiatus. It was really good for, I think, just everybody. I think a lot of just Bears content creators, whether you're a writer, follow the team, beat writer, content creator, or just an average Twitter user. I mean, honestly, I think everyone took a break. Twitter was calm. It was quiet. I'm feeling good. How are you feeling are you ready for football? Because it's literally a couple days away, essentially.
Right. It's weird because when it's gone, you're kind of like, oh, this is nice after covering it for so long. But then as soon as you're like, oh, it's almost here, you're almost like, yo, get here quicker. So I guess there's no winning. But, if there was a time to take a break, there was literally not an ounce of football or Bears related news the past 2 weeks. So I think we timed that perfectly.
I think we did as well. It's a good break. Just you have to refresh mentally. But at the end of the day, it is now until probably February, or if you want to even go into the draft, April. I mean, it's going to be gun ho, whether you're covering the team or you're just a fan, because there's just so much news coming out in regards to everything. So, but to give a little heads up on this episode, from the title, we are going to be previewing training camp. So just position battles we might be looking at, players we're going to be looking into, I guess, outside of just the stars Bayless Jones Jr. and all those guys.
Okay. Relax, bro.
No, but for real, it's going to be a very, very fun episode. We have a special guest, Robert Schmitz. He's a big time now. He's on doing everything. We'll let him kind of get to that here in a minute, but he did join us. So we'll bring Rob in here from the Bears blog. He's a legend, and we're excited to have him on. I know we had his co-host, Nick, a couple of weeks back, but Rob, man, thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy.
Fellas, how are we doing? I mean, the boys are signed. The whole team's in town. There's still a little bit of something to address, I guess, at edge rusher. All a matter of how Ryan Poles wants to get at that. But it feels like this is the team, finally, that we've been expecting to see for months on end. And we don't have to pretend that there's any drama relating to anything going on just to stir up conflict. We just get to talk about the team as they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's great. No contract holdouts, nothing to really worry about that. Everyone is signed, sealed, delivered, and ready to rock and roll. It's nice for us.
But I thought Caleb was a diva. I thought, what about all these red flags, Rob, we heard about? I saw a tweet, right? What are all this? Where is it? It's honestly, it's a relief that, he is such a good guy. There was I think it was a tweet from maybe Braggs or somebody talking about how he's really been under the radar this summer, for how big of a name he is, number 1 draft pick in Chicago. I mean, the only thing you see him doing is just his charity, right? And then perhaps he goes to the game, but he doesn't even throw out the first pitch. He's just there kind of soaking it up. And now he's signed his contract early, you could say. And now he's just getting ready to play football, go to camp. So it's a relief, honestly.
Forgive me for making this comparison. I'm just going to be talking about him I'm going to use a name that I think is obvious in terms of just how popular the guy is. But yeah. I do think it's harder for Caleb Williams than other players, because if the guy does anything, he's getting treated like LeBron James right now. LeBron James reads a book, that's in the news. LeBron James shows up at his son's basketball game, that's in the news. It's almost unavoidable for Caleb Williams to not draw attention. Like you're talking about, goes to a WNBA game with any of the boys, it's in the news. And so you end up with situations just like the one we saw here today, where Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams, look, I don't know how you guys feel about this whole Hard Knocks rumor, but it makes so much sense to me. I don't want to be all too speculative, but for some reason or other, they wait until they get to rookie camp to sign their rookie deals. But it almost feels to me, Dave, like we made this a story because Caleb didn't give us anything else to work with, which I think is great. I mean, especially if the biggest concern that plenty had was character. I love that we had an extremely boring rookie offseason compared to a lot of the more high energy off seasons that I feel like we've had for the last couple off seasons, which are rife with arguing, proving why the media is wrong about the Bears. Instead, it feels as if it's been everybody on the same page. The receiver core is good. Caleb has a chance to have a really fun rookie season. We don't know what that means as far as how things are going to look immediately, but we're all excited to find out. And I'm excited that we're here instead of still talking about it in the middle of May.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rob. I forgot how quiet like this has been, because me and Dave talked about, we took a little hiatus here, and it was like, yeah, it was like the perfect time. There was absolutely nothing to talk about, but normally there is something to talk about, and it's typically not good. So
we scraped the bottom of the barrel as far as content goes for May and June, and we got to the end of June and we're like, all right, this we got to take a little break for. I don't know if you feel the same way, because obviously, Rob, you have your own podcast, you write. You work for the Bears blog, your podcast. Why is it slipping my name right now?
Bear with us. No worries.
Bear with us.
With Nick,
good friend of the show. But like, do you feel the same way when it comes to those months in June, and then leading up to July? Like, you just kind of have to take a mental break, or are you 24/7?
100%. Normally, I feel like what's kept the fire fueled has been that generally Bears fans are arguing a lot more with the national media. Whether they're right or wrong about that, it depends per season. Right. But generally, you've got people saying the 2022 Bears are going to be terrible, or the 2023 Bears seem dysfunctional, or any number of other things that then people argue about it, and that becomes hot conversation day to day to day. Whereas, like you talk about, Dave, it felt really boring because the national media generally agreed with Bears fans that the Bears look fun and exciting and in a wide open NFC. I mean, I think that if we polled most of the audience here about who is the best team in the NFC right now, they'd all say the 49ers. Do they still think so after Brandon Ayuk gets traded? Because that hurts them a lot. Not trying to go too far. Yeah. I still think they're plenty dangerous. But if one of their main stars gets hurt on a team with Brandon Ayuk that's not on it anymore, suddenly the complexion of that offense changes. And so I don't want to make any big promises. Promises, I think, are going to be the enemy here as we come into what should be an incredibly fun 2024 season where a lot of stuff is up in the air. But the door is wide open for something pretty wild to happen. The Bears aren't in the AFC. It would suck if they were in the AFC, because that is a gauntlet right now. Yeah. But trying to be one of the top 7 teams in an NFC that's so scattered, well, that's on the table, man. Especially if certain guys stay healthy, right?
Right. Oh, easily. You could definitely get in there. You could get 3 teams from the NFC North alone to sneak in there, just because all the top, I'd say like top 15 quarterbacks, 2/3 of them are over in the AFC. So.
Seriously.
It's definitely, it's like the NBA. The West is where you don't want to be, and then you got the Eastern Conference. So I want to go over, just kind of touch base with the biggest news of the day. Ironic that it kind of happened to occur. Our 2 top players from this year's draft, Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, both signed. Like you mentioned earlier, Rob, I think it could have been, hey, let's get this on camera. This would be a great way to start off Hard Knocks episode 1. If that's where they go. But eventually, that's probably where I'm going. But it's a number 1 overall pick, 4-year deal, fully guaranteed contract, of course, worth $39 million. Cool part here includes $25.5 million signing bonus. So, I mean, Caleb's getting that up front for the most part. Really good value, Rob, as far as just quarterbacks go. That's the perk of this. Rookie quarterback, you get such a good deal. You're a big believer, obviously, in that. I think everyone is. But what does that really mean for this team? And why do you think that kind of elevates this season? Why it's just so important to get off to a good start and perhaps maybe not compete for a Super Bowl this year, but you're looking at maybe year 2, right, to make that significant jump as a contender? Or are you thinking, why not year 1?
I mean, so as far as contendership goes, look, you're talking to the person that thinks that it's much more luck than meets the immediate eye. Like, that's not me trying to say that everybody's lucky. It's more to say, I don't know if the best Bengals team was the one that went to the Super Bowl, but the one that went to the Super Bowl went to the Super Bowl. And part of that was because the Rams experienced something pretty similar. The Rams won a Super Bowl in the weird world where most of the AFC ate each other, or NFC ate itself. And then they got to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a day where they fumbled 4 times and threw an interception. And then the preceding week, they squared up a rival in the Niners and were able to get to the Super Bowl after the AFC, if I'm remembering the same season correctly, had just gone through some wild playoff games to put the Bengals in a chance to get one over on a Chiefs team that had just come off that insane 13-second comeback, right? Was that the same one?
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's it.
I mean, they talk about this all the time in college football, where it's like it's just hard to sustain that emotional peak after you do something crazy 2 weeks in a row. And then after going up 21-0, Chiefs fall asleep at the wheel. They end up not going to the Super Bowl that year. I say all of this, Dave, because if the Bears make the playoffs, well, can they win a game? Maybe. If they win that game, can they win the next one? Well, right now, that's a question of can they beat the Niners? And I think the fair answer on paper is they easily could, depending on how a couple things shake out this season.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not forget that the Bears will have 9 weeks to potentially make a move at defensive line that changes the complexion of the unit as we know it. If they manage to add a Jonathan Allen, a Trey Hendrickson, or another player at that level that shakes loose and becomes available, do we suddenly think that the Bears are good enough to probably lose the Super Bowl? Again, we're not necessarily trying to be like, oh, they could be hoisting that Lombardi. It's more like, could they potentially be a spoiler team in the NFC that gets to the playoffs hot at the right time with Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams playing good football and a defense that's holding itself together well? That's absolutely on the table. That can't not be on the table. And in my opinion, the NFC is just not enough of a gauntlet for us to take it off. The bigger question is whether or not they'll get there. I think a lot of that depends on their division. Can they beat the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings once each at least?
Yeah.
We would hope so. But that's going to depend as much on the other teams as it does on them, right?
Yep. No, you're spot
on. You're
right.
right.
The NFL is one of the luck is involved very heavily with the NFL compared to other teams. I can't remember. I was watching this somewhere where they did like data behind it. And it was basically like, as long as you get in, your probability is almost as equal to everyone except the 1 seed. So like you just get in. It doesn't matter if you're 6'5", 4'3", or 2, right? Your likelihood to get to the Super Bowl is just the same. And the only reason why it's not as the obviously the 1 seed is because they just get one less game, right? But because the NFL has so many injuries, right? I feel like that's a big variable to it as well. Right. There could be 1 week you have your star player, the next week it's out, and now like your whole game plan changes. I think that's also a big part of that. And the ball being oblong and all bounces all different types of ways, and things just go array. As Bears fans, we know it. Sometimes it just doesn't ever bounce your way, or it bounces twice off a pole.
Don't bring it up.
It's another one, and then bounces back out. So yeah, so a lot of luck in that.
Sorry for that graphic description there for our podcast listeners or whoever. Yeah.
And in a safe manner of speaking, no, the Super Bowl isn't something that you should predict, right? Yeah. None of us are sitting here saying that that's the expectation. My expectations, frankly, are pretty low. I refuse to get bummed out about this season. Win 8 games, look like we're improving, and then anything else is icing for me. Doesn't have to be that way for you. Yeah. It's more that question of what if we get to December or January, and at that point, just like what happens with Patrick Mahomes at the end of every offseason, or as you go into the playoffs, Caleb starts running more than he has been for most of the season. And then all of a sudden, let's say Keenan's hurt and you've managed to get to the end of the season with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze still healthy. But by a nice stroke of luck, most of the offensive line is healthy as well. Mm-hmm. Could that offense be dangerous? Well, especially if Caleb is playing markedly better football than he was in the middle of the season, he's going to be tough to scout because you just don't have that much NFL tape on the guy. Right? It's like we looked at CJ Stroud last year with what happened in the AFC playoffs, and we said, yeah, winning one and then losing the next one, that's pretty normal. They played the Ravens. They played a stacked football team. What if they'd played the Bills? Does that game go differently? I think it could have. And so in a world like the NFL, where every single game is a week-to-week matchup, the Bears may have some solid matchups. I think they need a stronger defensive line if we do want to dream about reaching the highest of highs. But that could change with one really solid move at the deadline. So we'll see. I just think to take it off the table in a year like this, I mean, guys, have we thought about how over the next 3 years, all of the best contracts, like Ficky, name your favorite 7 contracts or your favorite 7 quarterbacks in football right now, if you were going to shoot from the hip.
7 favorite? Well, man, Patrick Mahomes, he's got a favorable contract, but it's long. He did kind of with Jalen
Money
Brunson.
kicks in starting next year.
Yep. He kind of delayed that. That's what Jalen Brunson just did for the Knicks, copying that. So did Tom Brady. Tom Brady did that as well. So that's one. I would say Lamar. I like watching Lamar.
Contract kicks in next year.
Okay. And then you have Stroud was fun to watch. His obviously rookie deal, right? Doesn't count. You got Josh Allen.
Money just started kicking in, but it'll really start to hit their cap coming up. That's why they're purging.
I'm trying to think who.
Joey B.
Yep. Burrow.
Who just got his money. That'll kick in over the next couple of years.
It's like all AFC. I'm like, who's on the NFC? Hurts?
Herbert
and Hurts. You have Herbert and Hurts.
He just got paid, and Hurts just got paid. Are you getting the theme here?
Where you got to have that rookie deal.
That the contract landscape of the NFL is about to really bear down on some of these teams, pun not intended, over the next 3 years. And suddenly, one of the only, I think it's 3 teams with a very favorable rookie quarterback, rookie contract situation is going to be Chicago, Stroud, and Lawrence for like a year or 2 before his money kicks in. So it's going to be really interesting, right, Dave, to see what can the Bears do when they're saving $45 million a year compared to their competitors.
I think that's...
No, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, go ahead, Vic. Yeah, I was just saying, I think that's what's so exciting about, I mean, just the season, because I really am going into it, no expectations, except for the one ask is I want Caleb to be the guy, and I want us to all know it, like 100% know it. Not just like Justin in 2022, where he ran and we were all like, oh my God, captured by those highlights. But I just want to know that he's the guy. But the best part about this deal that we kind of just talked about, $39 million over 4 years. I mean, you have probably 3 full years before you have to even think about an extension. And so to capitalize on those 3 years, I think is just so important. And I think Ryan Poles, I mean, these guys, they get it. Look at the team they've surrounded him with so far in year 1. And I know we talk a lot about what they did for Justin and how the supporting cast just wasn't there. That's just, it's refreshing. I know I've said it before, again and again, but to truly go into this camp and have, a worry, it's similar to like 28, where you're like, we're worried about the kicker, but we're worried about like an edge rush, which is pretty important. I get it. But for me, Rob, you hit the nail on the point. Like, you can either bring in a Yannick Ngakoue or say the team's playing pretty well, 4 or 5 wins, make a big deal and, make a trade. Poles has done that. He's not afraid to, deal away capital. You got so many picks next year. I think just looking over this deal, it just it reminded me how great of an opportunity this team has. And I'm not saying they have to do it in year 1, but it's like those year 2 and 3 and maybe even 4. And you even talk about Rome Odunze, who's a premier position at wide receiver.
I was gonna say, that's another.
Everyone's getting paid, man. And you're paying this guy, what was it? 4-year, $22 million, 13.
But that's another rookie deal. That's another one that you're saving on. You don't have to worry about that for 3. So for 3 years, you don't have to worry about at least 2 of your top offensive positions. Right.
That's
a long time to kind of figure out what you're going to do with the cap. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah. With Keenan Allen too, I know we all talked about. I feel like there's a conception that maybe he's just a 1-year deal, but it's like if he plays well, I mean, the Bears are going to have the money. And if both sides can come to a decent deal, they can sign him because you have Rome Odunze and on such a great deal. You have the quarterback on such a great deal. Now they may not stick with Keenan; they may have a better option, right, Rob? But what are your thoughts on Keenan in year 1? Because I feel like that's one player I know there's so many, but I'm going to be watching him and how he kind of talks with Rome, how he's with DJ, because I feel like I want to know, is there potentially going to be a deal? Like, I just want to see, and maybe you can't get that from how he interacts because he's going to be a veteran. He's going to be a great teammate. But like, if he loves it here and there's something special, like they go on a run this year where they're competitive, they win a playoff game or they get there, why would he not want to take because he said he wants to win. So for me, what are your thoughts on Keenan? And do you think he is gone, or do you think there's still an element of maybe like, indecision there when it comes to both sides.
First things first, the longer this offseason has worn on, the better and better I think the Keenan Allen move was. It is really easy. I know I'm preaching to the choir to look at a Bears move and immediately say, it's good. Congrats, Ryan. You're GM of the year. But it is so hard to assemble quality receiving options for a rookie quarterback. Take a look around the league, and outside of the Vikings situation, it's just difficult, especially if you're talking about the number 1 overall pick. And the Bears went out and they got a wonderful compliment to DJ Moore. And it took the Falcons, I think, doing something that nobody saw coming for Rome to be available at all. Imagine the Bears, had they been in a position where they didn't have Keenan Allen, instead they had, I don't know, Gabe Davis or something like that. Would you guys have been banging the table to send that second that you kept in your pocket from Carolina next year so that you could move up a little further and guarantee yourself a Rome Odunze? Much more likely. But instead, we felt comfortable. The Bears end up reaping the benefits of the situation, and it's a massive win overall. And you get a player that I think does exactly what Caleb needs and should be a weapon enough in the option game for Caleb Williams to turn his brain off and pick up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 yards in little quick chunks that remind him of the air raid. As far as what happens next, I tend to think both the Bears and Keenan Allen are going to be auditioning for spots in each other's future as this season wears on. The Bears want to look like that stable organization that Keenan hasn't been able to be a part of over the next couple of years. But if the Bears don't live up to task, Keenan's going to go hit free agency. On the other side, Keenan wants to prove to the rest of the NFL that he's still got it and that last year wasn't some aberration and that he's not a product right now of Justin Herbert. And so he'll try to do it with Caleb Williams. If Keenan really likes it in Chicago, then maybe he'll buy a house in Chicago and then his family and he could commit. But honestly, Dave, I think the best part about the current situation is that the Bears don't need a long-term deal with Keenan Allen. If he wants to stay, great. If he wants $25 million a year, I don't think the Bears are in position to pay it. But they'll find other options, or at least they may have to. But we can cross that bridge when we get there. For now, we get to tackle one of the most important seasons of Bears football, I'd say within the last decade, and we've got a plethora of receiving options to do it with, which we haven't usually been able to say.
Yeah. Flexibility. That's what Ryan Poles has been good at. Flexibility so that he can adjust when he needs to. So if Keenan doesn't work out, you have Rome and you still have picks and you still have cap space. Right. You know what I mean? It's like he's been very, very good with that. And I think as a GM, right, if you can keep flexibility, when you miss, you can bounce back much easier, right? Because you don't put all of your eggs in one basket. And so if that thing goes wrong, you go down with it. You talk about Hard Knocks right now, the Giants, right? They kind of put all their eggs, Joe Shine put all his eggs in Daniel Jones. So if that works, great. You found your guy. But if it doesn't, you're probably not the GM of the Giants anymore. So I know quarterback's definitely a little bit heavier weighted, but I just think I just like how Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham and the whole front office, kind of their philosophy on things, which is like, let's hedge our bets here. We don't go too crazy. As we see in free agency, he doesn't overpay. He sets a number and says, well, hey, if that's not the case, and what it tends to be, you know, in the moment, we're like, oh, we want this guy, we want that guy. Well, the season goes on, and then you start to see like, oh, those guys weren't that good. So it's good that he didn't go overboard like a Ryan Pace would. So I just think I'm very pleased with like the front office's philosophy on how they attack building this team, because they're going to miss, right? The Claypool, everyone, that's probably his worst one. He missed, but got rid of it pretty quickly. He lost a second, but that was it. No money tied in or anything like that. So it's weird because that's not normally how the Bears front office approaches building a team. So,
and take a look, for instance, to your point, Fick. I mean, so the Bears front office at times is so bet heavy, or they're so good at hedging their own bets that sometimes they look downright cutthroat. You know what I'm saying? Where I think the obvious one that you stayed away from, but I'm going to bring it up, is quarterback, where the Bears never fully committed to Fields and left the door open for a move at quarterback that they end up making. I think it was the right call, but I'm not about to pretend it was easy for anybody. But you look at other moves, right? The Bears signed Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, displacing Jack Sanborn, who did perfectly fine. What did Jack do to earn getting demoted? Nothing. That's not the point. Now you have got 3 really solid linebackers, and in moments where Tremaine Edmonds missed a little bit of time, in moments where you needed 3 linebackers on the field because of the personnel the other side had, you had 3 very solid linebackers, and you're still training up Noah Sewell in the 4th linebacker spot. To your point, Ficky, this Bears organization doesn't seem to want to pin the hopes and dreams of the team on anybody in specific. They want to avoid that as much as they can. I think that's a good way to operate when it comes to football. You need multiple ways to win games. You need multiple ways to get through each individual week. And I think that they operate in a way where they end up reaching a deal with Jalen Johnson. Guys, I don't know about you. I still think he could have potentially gotten $3-4 million more per year on the open market. The Bears just met him where he needed to be with guarantees, and that was enough for everybody. I think it's looking like a well-run organization. They just need the wins to match, because you say the word Matt Eberflus in a Chicago bar right now, and they're still all retching at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's much worse coaches, in my opinion. Like Flus in the beginning, that wasn't that hot. You know, we know like losing 4 games doesn't matter who you are. Like people are going to put you on the hot seat. But like to see someone bounce back, you know, and handle the situation how he did with such a depleted roster, like, you know, it gives me a little bit of hope. I'm not saying this is the guy they're going to build a statue outside of Soldier Field or wherever the new stadium's at. But I don't know. I feel like the players like him. That's very important, right? And they trust him. And he knows how to run a team. I mean,
that's another guy I'm interested to see at camp is just Flus and how he manages all these personalities, because like there's a lot of talent here, man. Like more than he's had, you know, even at even say quarterback, right? So for me, we know what he can do at the defense. We saw it last year. I think it's important that he gets off to a quicker start. Perhaps not having all these HR issues and everything that's transpired last year. But for me, there is still a lot of pressure. Yeah, ugly is right. I mean, I feel like there's still pressure, though. And I think he knows that you have to be able to win games this year. Now, you can't go on a 4-game slide. You know, you just can't. You can't do it. Not in Chicago, not with this talent. So for me, Flus will be one. You know, with the new look, we all joke, but I really want to see what he does as far as just being a leader out there and making sure this team's ready to go. Because, I mean, the turnaround, I was talking to Fick off screen here before we started, Rob, but camp is here, but about 2.5 weeks, preseason game 1, Hall of Fame game, August 1st. Like, you got to get these guys ready to go super quick. So, Rob, to kind of preview this training camp, I want to know who 3 players are that you're looking forward to seeing, hearing about, reading about, and also writing about outside of maybe the stars. So, like, no Caleb Williams, no Rome Odunze, no Velus Jones Jr. No, I'm just kidding on that one. But for real, I love Velus. But who are 3 players that maybe a fan or someone who might not know too much, or, you know, maybe not focused on those smaller names, maybe roster bubble or something like that?
So I'll preach to the choir on the first one. I'm dying to know how Ryan Bates, and I'm going to slide Coleman Shelton's name into that same
You
spot.
should, yeah.
If I can get both in there, call that one player. I'm dying to know how that person looks. There's one story this offseason, and I wonder if you guys can catch me on where I'm going. One offseason story that I actually don't think most Bears fans have focused enough on, and that's that the Bears organization almost gives the impression they're planning around Davis continuing to disappoint them, which is not something I think any of us want to hear. But bringing in both Bates and Shelton, getting Bates work at guard in OTAs, this Bears organization seems as if they are prepping for life where Nate Davis does not play his way into a starting lineup, whether it's a reliability issue, whether that's something else. I couldn't tell you. The vibes I get are just that no NFL coach has time to waste time on something they're not planning on doing, and having Bates already take reps at right guard, tells me that it's more than just an availability question with Nate not being there. They also want to be prepped just in case things go wrong. So if those two are going to get major time, I'm very interested to hear how well they mesh with Caleb Williams. Javon Dexter is the other major one. This one anybody's going to say, where I think, frankly, based on what we saw, and based on what we saw from him last year, he was such an explosive and penetration-oriented player that when it came time to defend the run, in many cases, he'd over-penetrate, he'd hunt the wrong gap, he didn't contain his gap situation particularly well. These are things that can be fixed, especially as he acclimates to the NFL, but especially when you move from a reserve role to a starting role, it starts to hurt you more on or down to down moments where what could have been a 4-yard run turns into a 9-yard run. And that's the difference between either a first down or now it's 2nd and 1, something like that. So Dexter's ability to step forward is going to be really important. For the third one, part of me says Tyreek Stevenson, but also part of me thinks that we're not really going to get much feel for what he looks like in camp, especially given how good the Bears receivers are. So I want to focus on Tyler Scott, who, if we assume for a moment that one of the Bears' big 3 receivers is going to miss some time, Tyler Scott will get a non-insignificant amount of snaps. And how well is he going to do in that role? I think he's somebody that the noise surrounding quarterback took a toll on the way people talk about Tyler Scott. But you mentioned Velus, Dave. I think Scott has similar chops when you put the ball in his hands. The ball was just not in his hands often. So can Tyler Scott do damage as an underneath receiver? Envision, I know you guys have watched enough Caleb tape. What is the difference between Taj Washington and Tyler Scott? Taj might catch the ball a little bit better, but in that same man-beating yak artist role, could Tyler Scott do similar damage to what we saw Taj do in USC? The answer is maybe. So I'm curious to see if he steps up, because rookie to sophomore is where you should see a step forward. And if Tyler takes a healthy step forward, the Bears receiver room goes from top heavy to kind of deep, but we'll see.
Interesting.
Both friends
Velus.
though. Both friends.
Yeah, it's true. We had Taj on. He's so awesome, and he's out in what, Miami? I think.
Miami, right?
Miami,
Yep,
yeah, because
that's
they
a
just
good
need
spot for
speed
him.
over there. Yeah, because they don't have enough.
Yeah, Tyreek's not quick enough. He's getting old, I guess.
Yeah, wild.
But I want to actually, I really want to bring up Velus Jones Jr. because that is, before I get too thicky, to kind of bring up your 3, if you have, or 2, depending on who you want to add. But Velus is actually one I will be. I know you can't maybe not so much more in camp, but in preseason, that Hall of Fame game, I want to see this return. I want to see him, just live in action, because I think he is such an interesting player. Because you could say, maybe a bubble player, but for me, it's like he may have a roster spot just guaranteed because of that new kickoff rule. But what are your thoughts on him? Is he for sure, in your eyes, are you thinking he's 100% locked in, or do you think there's still, a chance where he could be cut, in a couple weeks?
Did you ask me or Ficky before I?
This is for you, for both of you actually. But Rob, you go first.
I wanted to make sure I didn't speak out of turn.
No, you're good.
I think he's as close to a roster lock as you're going to get. The public hates Velus more than the Bears do. I think that's pretty clear.
That is true.
And he's given the public great reasons to not like Velus Jones. Let's not pretend anything different. But the Bears just didn't bring in enough other receivers to make me think that his job is in jeopardy. Do I really think they're going to keep Dante Pettis over Velus Jones? Poles drafted Velus. Guys, we've been down this road before. When you have a draft pick assigned next to your name, you stick around a lot longer than maybe you should. And the new kickoff rule helps. I also think personally that Velus is a ball carrier. There's something to be explored there. I'm right there with you, Dave, where we saw it last year. We saw it the year before that. There is, like, Velus Jones is a dangerous runner with the football. Can you get him to catch it? Under what circumstances will he catch it? Does he know how to get lined up? Can he be a useful blocker? These are the questions you need to answer to figure out what his role is actually going to be on a down-to-down basis. But if Mecole Hardman can make an NFL roster and then win a Super Bowl on that same or on a different roster that he gets traded to, there is a place in the NFL for a Velus Jones type. The Bears just need to have enough success to where fans are less focused on the former third round pick. Because I do think the lens is always just a little too big for him. And gosh, his mistakes look so much worse than some of his teammates' mistakes.
They do. Because he came into the league just kind of making a lot. And so I think now that you have the perception of like, there's no trust, you know what I mean? As soon as you make something, you do something wrong again, people are like, it's Velus Jones, right?
Yes.
Compared to like someone can make, one, like I'm sure DJ Moore made a mistake last year, right? But we also like DJ Moore will go for 250, against the Washington Commanders. So I just think there's a trust issue right now with him. But I mean, he has made some decent plays. Like if you guys remember the Bills game, not last year, year before, I was at that game actually. It was freezing. And he runs like that deep, almost like kind of post. It's almost like a curved post and catches that one from Fields like right in the bucket. Like that's where
he slides.
Yeah. But he had to in that one. He had to in that one because it was kind of like like that was the only way he could get to it. But maybe there's ways like that. And I think also with his type of like build, or I should say like the type of player he is, I feel like it's like you need to scheme them open and then just give them the ball. Like you said, Rob, they're ball carriers, right? Figure out how to get them open, and then you can make it easy for them or for him where, the likelihood of him making a mistake isn't as hard because it's like, it's a 3-yard pass here to an open zone. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is. If you're using motion, because I know Shane Waldron likes to use a lot of motion, whatever it is to like get him the ball easier instead of having him run maybe a complex route tree. You know what I mean? And then having someone try to deliver him the ball in tight windows. That's not his game. At least that's been shown to us now. And I think we tried so hard to do that, but also we didn't have the weapons. Right? When we first drafted him, like who was our wide receivers? So
he was the weapon.
Yeah. So I get it.
But I want to say this, Ficky, before I ask you to kind of name 2 more players that you're kind of watching on your radar this camp. For me, we don't get DJ Moore. We don't get that number 1 pick in 2022 without Velus and those fumbles. I know we joked about it during that time frame, but like you could say he's one of the more impactful players in the last 2 years.
And we owe it all to Velus Jones.
We honestly, man, this Super Bowl that we may or may not be getting, it could be all because of, some fumbles from Velus. So, but no, for real, camp is here, Ficky. Do you want to add 2 more players or as many as you really want?
Well, Moore's like storylines. So I think Rob did a good job. Center, we got to figure out who's playing there, right?
God, that scares me.
Yeah. Who's going to be playing there? And at least we have, I mean, it felt like that when we signed the Green Bay. Who's the guy who came from Green Bay? Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, it seems like it's the same caliber, and we were kind of high about that. Like, this isn't like the best guy, but it's like a decent fill. At least we have 2 options now. So like, if one is doo-doo, you got someone to backfill. So we need to figure out what that situation is because we've been traumatized enough in the past decade of just not having reliable centers. And the interior pressure is way worse than exterior pressure because you can't escape it. Even Fields, who's the escape artist. So need to get that figured out. Second thing, obviously, is who is defensive end number 2? All right. Or who's getting a lot of the reps? Like maybe it's a fill-in. It could be a rotation. That would probably make sense. Who is that person? I would love to know. That might help my anxiety with the defense. Like really the only giant big question. And then number 3, which Rob talked on as well, is my guy Nate Davis. Nate Davis, before he came to the Bears, his tape was good. He was a decent to above average guard, like a pretty good guard. He had an unfortunate family event, right, last year where he lost his mother, and he, did not play the way he would, nor would I if some traumatic event happened like that. So I know there's like not a good rep with like how his situation is right now. I understand he's human. You do have to perform though, but I am maybe on the higher end or the glass half full that like he's going to bounce back. And I think the first question is, like Rob said, does he take first snaps going into camp? Or at least maybe not the first week because he's missed, but like by the end of this, he should be your starting right guard. He is the best guard on our team. Behind Tevin, he is the next best guard. So he should be that. And so I think it's really like, who's starting center, who's starting guard, who's starting defensive end too. And are we going to see any breakout type of candidates that fill that? Or are we going to be like, who are we trading for? Or is that just something we're just going to have, because you can't fix every position in one season, right? In one off season. Is that just going to have to be a priority moving forward? So I don't know how we want to rank those and what's the importance of them. I think they're all really important because I always say that the line on both sides is, the trenches. That's where you win and lose games. So maybe that is a little concerning that like all three of my questions happen to be in the trenches, but I'm hoping that at least maybe 2 out of 3 we can start to feel comfortable about. And then we only have to kind of worry about one going into the trade market or, moving on to next season.
It always feels like trench play is a both and, right? It is where you win and lose games. It's also some of the most expensive players on the field to upgrade with or from, especially with the advent of wide receiver as a premium position, where the Bears have only had so many draft picks. And within that, they've spent some on offensive line. I don't want to overhype what Ryan Poles has or hasn't done, because frankly, the line has been, let's say they've gotten what they paid for. Maybe they've gotten a little more than what they paid for, which, hey, return on investment's nice. Return on investment doesn't make you feel better about your quarterback. And then defensive line, same thing. It's not like they've got some major bust playing edge right now, right? They don't have a first-round pick that we're incredibly disappointed in. They just haven't had the ability to spend first-round picks over there. Instead, we got Darnell Wright, and I'm thankful we did. So
absolutely.
I think the lines are going to be a multi-year project. The big question that I'm going to ask until the trade deadline is over is, in your heart of hearts, how many games do the Bears need to win before Carolina's second-round pick, which we all think should be pretty high, or maybe Chicago's second-round pick? Which do you want the pick more, or do you want an aging but not fully aged out player on the defensive line more? Because I think that question is going to be worth asking. I think it's going to be on the table. It's just a matter of, do you want that future pick who could easily be an offensive lineman, easily be a defensive interior guy, maybe he's a rotational edge, or do you want a Jonathan Allen type almost immediately and add them to the mix in 2024? I know it sounds like a pie in the sky question, and a lot of our crazy trade situations we've come up with over the years really are, but this one, to me, the need on defensive line, whether it's interior or exterior, or like interior and edge player, they just need help, is so obvious that you suddenly look at next year's draft capital, and Ficky, like you pointed out on Twitter, the Bears have one more pick than they should. Meaning, in theory, you could spend it and you'd still have a full draft class.
Yeah,
I think that's a question that's going to be asked. It's just not fully a training camp story, because like you're talking about, Dave, if I told you they went 0-4 in September, keep the pick, please. But on the other hand, let's say they steal a game against the Rams, beat the Colts in Indianapolis, and come out of September a surprising 3-1 with some really easy games left on the schedule. At that point, are you suddenly more apt to pull the trigger?
And you go into that final stretch with so many divisional games, so it's going to be super, super important. I think it's interesting because Poles, I really don't know 100% what he is going to do when it comes to those, because I mean, he wants to build through the draft, he's doing that, but he also is not afraid to take swings. We know that. So I think it really depends, Rob, like on how they feel, how the scouts feel looking at next year, and maybe what they can get as far as a player being available that is both very, very good. And I would assume they're going to have to be young, similar to like Montez Sweat, right? Chase Claypool was young. I don't think they're going to send a second round for a older vet, in my opinion, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. But
can I take a stance on it? I kind of don't want them to trade, to be honest. And because I don't know, maybe if you trade for a second, that's fine. But with the trenches, typically your hit rate, this isn't like the case for other positions, but like, especially edge, defensive tackle, and offensive tackle typically have to be in the first round to get like a really, your likelihood of you hitting someone really good, they got to be in the first round. It's not like other positions like wide receiver. You can go find Stephon Diggs in the 5th round, right? We see that all the time. Puka Nacua literally last year, 4th round. So or maybe he was 5th as well. But my point is like, I'd rather hold on to that first one, and then maybe we can try to use that in a way to like get a really premier, prime, young person to fill in that role, because it's not like, at least for the defensive line, it's not like we don't have a defensive edge already, right? We have Montez, who's proven, so we can put someone a little bit younger that can kind of like work.
Are you
with
talking
him.
about the second or first round?
First rounder?
Oh, I
wouldn't use it.
No, I think the first rounder's off limits. If that
I
makes
was talking
you
about
feel
the
any better.
second rounder.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
So second rounder, I'd be fine. Okay,
because we got Montez for a second, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Am I crazy?
Correct.
Okay, and then we got Claypool, unfortunately, for a second.
Also for a
so
second.
I just don't see. Yeah, I don't.
Well,
That
also,
would be
Poles is
wise.
never. Yeah, he probably wouldn't trade a first. Sorry, that was
No.
my misunderstanding. But I
You're
put my
good.
foot down. I would not, even if we are like winning. Let's say projected pick, because trade
Yeah.
deadline's week 7 or 8, right?
I think
Is
it's
that
9.
right?
I think they just
9?
approved
Okay.
a move.
Oh yeah,
back
it just
to
got
week 9,
moved.
right?
You're right. So let's say we're like 7-2, 6-3.
Whoa.
Right? I know what I'm saying. Like, let's say even like the pick is projected, right? And this would be a perfect time. Like, you're winning. This would fit the narrative. You're really winning. You got to get your guy. Like, we might go on a run here. And the projected picks in the 20s at that point, even at first, I don't think I would trade it.
I agree. The main thing I'm thinking about when it comes to Dave, a potential shift in strategy. The Bears lacked building blocks as recently as last year, right? So
Yeah.
you're looking for that younger guy that you can extend because you're flush with cap space, but you don't have the core building blocks. As the Bears look into the future, and I'm sure you've taken a look at their cap space, they're fine on cap space, but they're not near as flush as they once were. And so if you want to trade for that 26, 27-year-old who's starting to hit their apex, they're going to charge you 24 to 27 million a year. Whereas if you trade for, it's what keeps pushing me towards the Trey Hendrickson, Jonathan Allen, 29-year-old, 30-year-old type, is a lot of them are already extended. So they come cost controlled,
Interesting.
and
Like DJ.
it costs you because you're risking that they just turn to dust the next season or something like that. But the conversation, I think, gets really intriguing because Caleb Williams will start a season of football for Chicago this year, and then he'll hope to step forward next year. When do you realistically expect any player picked in the second round to start contributing? You would
2 to
hope,
3 years.
best case scenario, it's 2026. So maybe that future second can do more for you with a 2024 and 2025 veteran than they could starting in 2026, maybe getting a little better in
Interesting.
2027, or maybe you just traded away your next Jalen Johnson. So it's a lot to weigh. There's no instant answer. But
I'll tell you what,
Mhm.
you start out 7-2. I think you just keep riding with them boys.
What you got?
I don't think you changed anything at that point.
It seems to be working.
I'm
I mean, you
joking,
can
but seriously,
always
it'd be-
improve the team. But how about this? How about this though? Maybe a best of both worlds, right? And we saw this they just did with Keenan Allen. You trade for Keenan Allen, and they didn't know that they were going to be able to get Keenan Allen, and then also they didn't know they could get Rome. But in essence, hedging your bets, right? You trade for Keenan Allen. If that doesn't work out, or you just get 1 year, you got Rome. So maybe they go for someone a little bit later, do a rental, right? 1 year rental, and then double dip in the first round next year and go get an edge. Right? Maybe that wouldn't be as bad, in my opinion. Obviously depends on the draft capital we have to give up, but I think Poles has been pretty good with not like overpaying, or at least his players have turned out well.
I want to go ahead and wrap up with a player that I'm most intrigued with, honestly, is just Austin Booker. Talking about edge, I think that's going to be one that once the pads really get going, you're going to see both sides, both the offense and defensive line. But Austin Booker, I think, is just I think he's one of the X factors as far as what the Bears are going to do. Are they going to reach out to Yannick Ngakoue if Austin Booker's looking the part or looking better than they even expected? Then you probably roll the dice, and maybe if it fails, first few weeks, maybe you make a move then. But I think that position right there, Austin Booker. I know DeAndre Swift's a highlighted name, but I think he's going to be such a fun player in this offense. So I want to see what he does. But Rob, we've been almost going for an hour here. So before we let you go, a lot going on right now. First of all, you're big time. You're on Sunday football, NBC.
Football night in Chicago was a lot of fun. That was great.
What's going on here? What do you got going on? I know the season's right around the corner. You have the podcast. You're going to be obviously ramping up the writing. You really didn't stop in the off season, but tell us what you're doing, where we can find you. And again, thank you for hopping on, dude.
Well, if you search my name, Robert Schmitz, on YouTube, in the next 10 minutes, I'll be going over what should be part one of 2 streams this week and next week we'll do covering the Bears defense. So I'm going to take a look back at the Bears defense. We're going to look with eyes that aren't caught up in the moment. Right? Because if you guys felt like I did, there wasn't really a lot of fun conversation to be had about the Bears defense as we got down the back stretch of last season, because we weren't looking at the defense. Defense was a vehicle to get the offense the ball back, and then everybody locked back in. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so what do we have in the defense? What did the Bears do well? How did they change schematically? Where are they weaker, or where are they weaker? Where are they stronger? I want to take a look at that. Then hopefully, if I can get some extra time here, I'll go through the rookie class for exactly the reasons you're talking about, Dave. I think right after draft season, it's so tempting. This is me. This is my proclivity. It's so tempting to write a bunch of puff pieces about how Rome is the greatest receiver to ever wear a Bears uniform, and Karan Amagdaji is the greatest offensive tackle prospect drafted in the 3rd round, and Austin Booker is lightning in a bottle. How good are these players? Where should they fit into the Bears? Where won't they fit into the Bears? What's realistic? I hope that I get some time to break down what I can see on tape and where we expect them to slot in. But like you're talking about, Dave, the time's going to come knocking, and we're going to get some actual Bears uniform tape here in just a couple weeks. And I'm stoked for that, man. I'm so stoked.
Me too, man. It's been. I say it every year. I feel like it's such a long off season. I know they do a great job filling it with the schedule release. We get the draft, of course, but it's like now is when it starts to get a little bit more real, and the excitement really starts to boil over. But Rob, hey, go ahead and check out his stuff. He's going live here right after, about 10 minutes after we end the show here. Rob, best of luck to you, man. Keep killing it. You're one of the best follows. Of course, your handle's here. It's gonna be in the description as well. We appreciate you. Don't be a stranger. We'll come back on maybe when we're in the Super Bowl or something like that. Is that good with you?
It'd be easy. We'll do a media week, right?
Yeah, media
we'll
week.
just cycle around everything.
Everyone's on the podcast. Love it, Rob. Hey, appreciate you, man. Have a good stream, okay?
Thanks so much, boys. Talk to you soon.
Rob. Peace.
See you, Rob. All right. Again, thank you to Robert Schmitz of the Bears blog. Check out his YouTube. He's going live here. If you're watching live on YouTube, he should be live within the next 10 minutes. Really, really good content. I always catch up on it. Shout out to him for hopping back on. I know we've been trying to do that for a couple months, actually. We got Nick on about a month ago, if I'm not mistaken. I thought it was a few weeks, but it was about a month ago. And then Rob hopped on to review training camp. So really excited, really fun talk. I know we kind of dipped in and out of training camp, but like I said, there's only so many storylines, but I think this season's going to be really, really fun. Again, if you enjoyed this conversation with Rob, go ahead and hit the like button on YouTube. We appreciate it. Subscribe. I think we've jumped up so much when it comes to subscribers. You guys have been supporting even with our hiatus. We're almost at
killing it.
5,400 subs on YouTube. So we appreciate you. Apple, Spotify, shout out to you guys as well. Lots of good stuff. Ficky, I know we're going to wrap it here in the next 8 minutes. I have some free, before we actually even get to the wrap up, I have two free training camp tickets to give away. I actually have a couple more that I'm going to sprinkle out here. I got quite a few. One for August 8th. I think that's the Saturday. I got 2 tickets for that one. But I'm giving 2 away for the first week of first practice, which is July 26th, that Friday. So if you're able to make it, it's about an 8:30 start time at Hallis Hall. I have 2 tickets to enter. All you got to do is just go on my Twitter, like the tweet, Dave_BFR. If you don't want to do that, you don't have Twitter, just hit the like button here on YouTube right now. You got about 4 minutes to do that. So hit the like button to enter, and we'll go ahead and announce that winner here in, like I said, about 3-4 minutes. But again, every podcast that we do, I should have some tickets to kind of give away. I know those were kind of
hard to get.
They kind of went fast. I get it. So as many people do reach out to me to give them away, or if I get some, I will do that as well. So enter there. But Ficky, before we go, we want to go ahead and do shout outs. We'll go ahead and talk about the Patreon, which we got some fun stuff.
So we'll do some shout outs and then we'll end on some questions. We do have like 3 questions to go through. So first off, if you are new here, please in the chat, give a hashtag new face gang. We'll give you a shout out before the end of the show. And if you are an OG, which means this is your 2nd episode, this is your 50th episode, anything in between, please give a hashtag OG in the chat, and we'll make sure to give you a shout out. Also, if you want to support us and support the show, we do have merch on our store, BFR, the BFRstore.com. We have shirts, hats, hoodies, flat bills, trucker hats, all different types of stuff, and it all supports us. The money goes directly right back into the show to help make it better so me and Dave can keep delivering some great stuff for y'all. And if you also want to support, we do have a Patreon. We have like 13 or 14 people in there now, which is awesome. There is a free membership in there, so if you just want to join and kind of see like what gets posted and stuff like that, you can do that as well. And there are 2 tiers. There's a rookie tier, a rookie Grizzly tier, and a Hall of Fame Grizzly tier. And there's giveaways that we do every month, private Zooms that we do. We have a mailbag episode coming out tomorrow. We answer the people's questions in the Patreon. So if you want to do that, you just need to go to the BFR Den on Patreon. That's the BFR Den. And you can join from there. And we have a bunch of other cool stuff that we're working on that'll be going on there as well. Okay. I think that is everything, but it actually leads to a question that we had, which I'm going to bring up here.
Let's knock out these questions for sure.
Yep, this is from Alex. He said, you guys like NCAA football. So we were actually, me and Dave were talking about this before the show. We are going to be doing a Madden league for our Patreon members, right? They'll get first dibs in there. We both have NCAA, and we both played it, and I enjoy it.
Dave, I have not played it yet.
Okay.
Then it came out yesterday. I had so much to do. I couldn't, and then I was going to play around 11 o'clock, and I was gassed.
It's all good. It's only been out. I'm
going to watch the, I guess it's a 1920 drive that just came out. I'm going to watch that, and then I'm going to throw on NCAA football. So I'm going to play college football probably for the next couple hours. So
yeah, we'll
try to learn it. I've heard it's a learning curve. So
for sure. And Giovanna Garcia said, I just want to give a shout because it's a perfect transition. 1920 is out. So I'll be watching that too. But we're working on if we're going to do that as well. NCAA one Dynasty League as well as Madden. That's still kind of up in the air. If we do, we will let you guys know. But again, the first dibs for that will be our Patreon members. So if you want to join, if you want to get first dibs for that, please join our Patreon. Okay, awesome. And then we got one more question, which is we haven't heard this question in a minute, but this is from Jake DeLuca. Bears 2024 record prediction. I think we both said 9-7, I believe. And I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. Yeah, prove me, because at that point, I don't think we'll get less, maybe 8-9. But like, if we go over, like, great, I'd happily be wrong.
My heart says we're getting 10 wins, 10 plus wins, but I got to be realistic here.
Look, if we sweep the Packers, like, that could happen. But that has, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that would be like, that'd be the way to do it. Okay, we got a lot of shout outs in here. So we got Daniel Hawkins with the OG. What's up, Daniel?
Thank you for the birthday
shout out to you,
Daniel. I appreciate
that. Gage, this is one of our, I think he's our Hall of Famer on Patreon, hashtag OG, the true OG. And then and then we'll do a question here. Danielle says, is Flus calling defensive plays again? Yes, he is. Yep, he announced that. So he will be calling those. Then we got another OG in here as well. Tito, the big OG. Appreciate it. Alex is definitely an OG. Appreciate you commenting throughout the chat today.
Thanks, Alex.
Tony Nicolade. Hopefully I said that right. Or Nicalde.
That's new.
Nicolade. I definitely fucked that up. So let me know how to pronounce that. But hashtag new face gang. We appreciate that. We got Ennis with the bear down. Seth Crane with the hashtag lurker, which is definitely a Madden term. I guess we'll take that. That's fine. And then we got another Tony in here with the new face gang. Appreciate that. And then here's Gage with actually a good question. Are you guys doing a fantasy league too? That is a good question. We might.
We'll talk off screen.
We're in so much stuff. Yeah. How about this? I will sacrifice not doing one of mine if we can get enough people to join the Patreon to do it from there. So if we get enough people that we can get 12 people, dedicated people that end up joining the Patreon, then sure, why not? I think that's a good way to reward y'all. But to do that, we'll need some more to join. So tell your friends. And then also on the Patreon, I know some of you are in there, but when you get the join on the Patreon, you get a free iPhone wallpaper. And I'm pretty sure it's of Devin Hester. You get a free booklet, like a 4-page booklet that talks about like Bears history, which is pretty cool that we created. and you get access to our Discord. And me and Dave are in there talking all the time to you guys. So whenever, you have questions or anything comes up, you can just reach out to us on there and we'll definitely talk to you. And then we got some more here. We got Plastic Rockets, definitely an OG. And then here we go. Nicola Day. Oh, Nicola Day. Appreciate that, Tony. Cool. And then we got one last question. Ennis said, do you think the delay on contract signing was due to Hard Knocks? Yeah.
These are easy ones. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's going to, that screen or that, it's going to hit good. I think it's going to be absolute fire as far as how they incorporate the signings to maybe the first or second episode of Hard Knocks. So I think absolutely they were recording. Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely has to do with that. But I do believe there were some logistics though.
Oh, I'm sure, especially with Caleb, business forward type of person. Like, yeah, he's definitely making sure he gets his money up front. So I'm not mad about it. I expected they were going to sign. And then I just want clarification here from Seth. He said, I normally watch and not chat at all. And that's a lurker. That's what a lurker means in the stream. So
in streams, yeah.
We appreciate
No, I'm a lurker as well. If I'm ever on anything. For
sure, I'm never chatting. I'm always just watching.
But hey,
from the
thank you for doing that. We appreciate it. It means a lot. So
absolutely. So again, appreciate everyone who joined the show, whether you're New Face Gang, OG, whether you've supported us by liking and Patreon, or if you haven't, that's okay. Like, you just being here, especially in like the dead space of the off season, it means a lot. And, and so when things start getting ramped up, like when the season starts, guys, like, I don't think you understand. It's going to be crazy with our two shows, our pre-games, our post-game lives as well. Both of them are live, but the post-games right after the games, we're going to have voicemail line where you can call in right during, before the game, anytime during the game, after the game. And we're going to share those. We started doing that at the end of last year and you guys loved it. We're going to be having those. Sure. We're going to have some fire guests. It's just going to be a great time because this team's actually going to be, at least on paper, good. So we're going to have things to talk about for real.
No, I'm excited, and I'm hoping next week. It depends. I'm not going to spoil it, but one of my favorite guests. We had him on last year. Well, I guess I could say it. That franchise guy on YouTube. If you watch his stuff, Marcus Whitman, he is doing his countdown, kind of going over his overall NFL rankings. I think he's in the low 20s right now. The Bears.
I was going to say, where do you think we're at? Where do you think he's going to go? Because I think he's at 21
I don't know. We're going
to
find out. But as soon as he releases it, like I said, as soon as he releases, he's going to hop on the show, explain it. We're going to talk about it. We have some really good questions for him. So hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss that. Super excited to have Marcus back on the show. I know he's a Packers fan. I give him a hard time, but seriously, a great, very, very creative mind when it comes to the football, content world, and just he's a load of information. So excited to have him on here soon. Hopefully next episode, depending on when he drops that ranking. So, but hey, the longer he waits, that means just the better rank the Bears have. So much more to talk about. But I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and announce the giveaway, if that's cool, Fick, unless you had something else.
No, that's it.
No,
we good.
So I went ahead and did it here. Michael, I don't even want to Kremer. So Mike_Kremer89 on Twitter. I went ahead and sent you a DM. If you need both tickets, let me know, or we'll chat. If you only need one, preferably if you only need one, just let me know. But we'll talk on the DMs. If he only needs one, guys, Michael Kremer, there'll be another one. I'll just private message a random person on the thread. But again, I have a couple more, and I'm hoping to get this. I have a couple more coming. So hopefully, if you did not get a ticket, I'll try to get at least a couple of you guys out there. Aiming to get people who are either traveling in and just weren't able to get one, or two have not been. I think it's really important. I've been to Bourbonnais. I know where it's a little bit different here up at Hallis Hall, Lake Forest, which I think they need to bring back Bourbon Day. It's never going to happen.
That's not
Bourbonnais, but
that's not happening.
Anyways, long story short, we'll have a couple or free tickets coming out. I'm not going to obviously resell them. These things where people were reselling for like
$416. I saw
$460. Honestly, it's almost kind of want to. I'm like, that is crazy, but I would never do that to y'all. Every year I get a few extra tickets. So, Michael, I DM'd you. Let's connect here. And again, I'm hoping to have a couple more throughout the next couple weeks. No guarantees, but appreciate you.
Make sure make sure you give a follow. Make sure you follow Dave. Make sure you follow me, because we be doing giveaways all the time. So make sure you're up to date. Follow the BFR pod as well, BFR_pod, because we'll have giveaways on there. For those who have won jerseys from me, some have been delivered to y'all. Some are still in lieu, but I just want to let you know that they will be coming your way, and actually got another one this week. So excited to give those out, and we're going to keep doing giveaways throughout, because that's what it's about. Giving back to the community, us Bears fans, because we deserve that in wins. And I think we might get both this year. So excited about it.
I sure hope so. Hey, appreciate y'all. We'll be back Friday. Yep, a little bit early of a turnaround. We'll be back Friday to go ahead and recap or to preview a little bit more of training camp. And we have a couple other things planned for that Friday episode. So stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll see you here in a few days.
Peace.